What's up, everybody? It's Tanya Smith here, and this is Stream Like a Boss TV, and I am super excited about the topic we're going to talk about tonight. One of the requests that I've had over the last several months as I've gone through and inquired of people who are in my space, what do you want to know about live streaming? One of the questions that I've had asked is, how do you do the tactical stuff? Like, how are you setting up your workflows and how are you creating your what's called a run of show? How do you make sure that things are structured in such a way that if anything goes wrong, you kind of have, your plan in place, your plan A, and then you got your plan B and your plan C. It is wonderful to see you here, stepping out with Valerie Harris in the house. Love it. Look, our show is all about live streaming strategies. So if you are looking to find out more about how to have a little bit more structure to your show flow, that's what we're talking about tonight, is the run of show. So I'll explain a little bit more in just a few minutes, but first I need to do my shout outs and say hello to some folks that are in the house. I love that you all are here.
Stream Like a Boss.
It's the family. Stream Like a Boss TV. So what we do is we talk about live stream. We leverage live stream marketing to help you to basically sell more services, serve more people, and stand out online. So if you can do all three of those things with streaming, that's what we're all about. And so I do want to break down for you the structure of my run of show, and I'm going to give you a couple of different options that I've used so that you can get some ideas for creating your own. Let me say hello to some folks that are in the house. Let's do a quick comments run real fast here. Look, and one of the things that I didn't share with you is if you are brand new to the show, we love to see you put in hashtag newbie. If you've been around, I want you to put in hashtag OG. Saeed, the facilitator, is in the house at 1 a.m. courtesy of insomnia. Look, I deal with that myself, bruh, so I get it. I appreciate you being here. Of course I do. Tech troublemaker Roy Richardson in the house. Love it, love it, love it. And here's Dan Roth. If you're having stream problems, I feel bad for you. Being an OG. Hey, you're always just a bright spot in my day. I have to tell you that for sure. Let me pop this up. So again, if you don't know the rule is if you're new to the show, you've never been here with us before, you're going to type in hashtag OG, newbie. And if you have been here, you're going to type in hashtag OG. So newbie or OG, put that in the chat for me and let me know which one you fall into. Either way, we want to acknowledge you and let you know how much we appreciate you being here. I really do. This is like the bright spot in my week every week. OG's in the house. I see them coming in, and I know we're going to have some newbies as well. Debbie Prediger, hey, girl. Love you too, Dan. I do so much. All right, y'all. We're going to get into our content. So in just a couple of seconds, after I do this short intro, I'll come back and I'm going to talk to you about run of show. This one's going to be a little bit of a training session, so a little miniature training, which is one of the things that I love to do, because I'm an insightful instructor. And that, I'll tell you more about the quiz at the end here. If you weren't on last week, we talked about our archetypes quiz. Okay, so tonight, talking about the run of show, what I want to encourage you to do right now is go get your favorite cup of hydration, whatever that might be. Also, make sure you get a notepad and a pen, because I got a lot of notes to share with you. So you're going to want to write some of this stuff down, because sometimes things just like come out. I don't plan for it always to come out, but sometimes things come out and the math be mathin'. Right? And I have stuff that I want to share with you that may not even be in my notes. So I want to make sure you capture that. Make sure you get your pen and your notepad ready, and I'll be back on the other side of this short intro video. Okay? We'll be talking about run of show and how to structure that for your own live stream episodes. All right, something just happened there that shortened it a little bit, but that's okay. We're back. We're back quicker than I thought, but that's awesome. Look, y'all, we're talking about run of show, and what that is basically the structure of your episodes for your live streams, right? So if you are creating live streams One of the things you might be doing, you probably aren't doing this. Maybe you are. I don't know. If you're new to this space and you haven't been doing live streams before, I bet you're not doing this. And that is creating space for yourself to be more organized, giving yourself a little bit of room to make sure that you say exactly the things that you want to say, and making sure that you have your plans in place just in case anything goes a little bit wrong, right? So we like to, around here, prepare by setting ourselves up for success. And so that's one of the things that I love to teach you how to do is to set up for success, right? So what we're going to do is talk about run of show. Again, my name is Tanya Smith. I am a live stream strategist and a business coach. I absolutely love and enjoy working with service business providers. So people who are coaches, consultants, creators that have courses and other things that you want to sell. So mostly I talk to you about actually using live streaming as a marketing tool. The live stream itself is not the end game. It's the vehicle by which we get to sell and promote our programs, services, and products, right? So that's what we're going to really focus on tonight is another tip to help you to do that. And one of the ways that you can do that is by ensuring that you are set up for success with a run of show, which basically, again, is kind of your workflow. It's what allows you to really feel a lot more confident and comfortable in your skin because you're well prepared. You have things organized and outlined. Now, let me say this. I'm going to go ahead and give this disclaimer because some of you are probably not, like, you live in chaos and you're okay with that. And that's absolutely fine. So please don't take this the wrong way when I'm saying words like organized. Right? And words like, woo, structure, that might sound like it's probably giving you sweats of, beads of sweat right now. If you're hearing that, a little anxiety, but I don't want you to feel that way. This is an option. When I share these type of tips, it's really for you to consider the possibilities and consider how it might help you to really go all in and do magical, wonderful things with your stream, because your goal is to reach other people, to reach the audience that you choose to reach. And you want to make sure that you have no distractions from the message that you're trying to share, right? Yes. Yes. Okay. Let me say hi to some folks that are in here. And there is a question. Okay. So I'm going to make sure I touch on that. Let me pop this up real fast on the comments here. Dan said, hey, can we talk about sessions today? I will definitely help me not to forget that at the end, Dan, because I want to make sure, just for purposes of, clean recording and all, that I get into this whole topic of run of show. But don't let me forget. Talk Virtual is in the house. That's Erica. Erica Bates is the virtual events producer, and she does wonders when it comes to events. Tech troublemaker, no. But some days I wish I could, and then other days I'm like, I don't want that job. I don't want that job. What do you keep in mind when planning your live streams to make them more likely to be repurposed? Another excellent question. Okay, I'm going to star your question, Saeed, and I'm going to star Dan's question so I can make sure to come back to those towards the end. I promise, okay? But you got to help me remember because, I'm getting a little more mature. Sometimes I forget things. I'm going to go ahead and give you the five tips that we're going to cover. So I will pull up a real quick slide or scene and share this with you. These are the 5 tips. These are the 5 pro tips that we're going to talk about tonight, right here laid out. Okay. But under each one, there's going to be something specific that you're going to want to write down. This is why I encourage you to make sure you have your notepad and your pen, because I'm going to talk about a couple of things under each one of these. So your run of show, my 5 pro tips are to define your show structure. So we'll talk about that first. To plan engaging segments. I want to remind you that timing is everything. We're going to talk about how to encourage audience participation. That's another run of show piece. And then being prepared for just about anything, because anything can happen on these shows, y'all. Anything. So we want to just make sure that we have that in mind. What I'm also going to do is to demo for you at least 3 different ways in which I have used outlines, if you will, or created my run of show. Now, one of the more common ways that you can go about doing this is probably if you're using like an Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheets or something to that effect. I'm not going to show you that because that's super common, but I am going to show you three other ways that I have used run of show formats. And by the way, you're getting kind of a sneak peek into what I actually do with my clients, because depending on their learning style and how they prefer to put things together, I give them these options, and then we choose the format that's right for them. So you'll get to see this, and then you can kind of recreate it for yourself. Okay, deal? All right. I got another question in there. Jay, what's up? Jay Byron Fixed Point. Love it. You're a newbie, aren't you? So if you're a newbie, type in hashtag newbie for me, because I want to definitely acknowledge you. Be prepared to be excellent. What's up? Cast ahead, Chris Stone in the house. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. I am going to get to some more comments here shortly, but first I want to go all in on our tip number 1. And tip number 1 was what? What did we have here? Defining your show structure. So I want to talk about defining your show structure. So when we're talking about a run of show, the main basis for this, the reason why we're creating such a thing, is because we want to be able to put some type of structure behind what we're doing, what we're talking about. If I had to give you a couple of different benefits for doing this, gosh, there are many for me, but I'll tell you initially what was going wrong was I was kind of doing the fly-by-night thing, which is what a lot of you, if you're new to this, you're doing. And look, I don't want to beat you up for doing that, because if it's working right now just to get you on camera, that's a plus. That's a win. But as you start to develop and mature your show, what you're going to find is that there is a repetitive formula that really is going to work for you. And so when I think about run of show, and I'm going to show you right now, I'll show you an example, because this is going to help me to break it up into 3 parts. Okay, so let's do that. When I'm thinking about run of show, I'm thinking about it in 3 parts, okay, 3 components. I'm thinking about the intro, I'm thinking about the main content, and then I'm thinking about the close or the outro, okay? So however, with any of the 3 methods that I'm going to show you that I'm using, the structure is typically going to be those 3 parts, okay? So we're going to use the 3 parts. We're going to have the intro or the open. We're going to have the main content, and then we're going to have the outro. And if you think about it, especially if any of you speak on physical stages, if you've done any type of speaking or presentations, or if you've done Toastmasters, which I know a lot of people have done. Personally, I hated Toastmasters. Like, I was a fail. It's day, if you put me into a Toastmasters group, I probably still would be. But I do appreciate the art of talking and conversation, right? So when you're speaking to people, which, by the way, live streaming is just a conversation with the camera. It's a conversation with an audience over a camera. It's like having a coffee chat. That's how I see it. And because I see it in that way, it makes it more comfortable for me, because I'm just chatting with you. I see a bunch of different comments in there I definitely want to acknowledge in a second. But because I get to do that, to have that conversation, recognizing still there's a message and there's a method to the thing that I'm trying to share. If you remember this and take away nothing else, this will help you. You always tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. I think that came from Zig Ziglar, but I may be attributing that to the wrong person. So charge that to my heart, right? That is something I've always remembered. You tell people what you're going to tell them. You tell them the thing or things, and then you tell them what you told them. And that is really the breakdown of the run of show to me. This is how I've broken it down. So the tell them what you're going to tell them part is in the intro. The tell them is the content or the body. And the tell them what you told them is the recap and the outro at the end. Okay. So let's break that down a little bit. Before I do that, I'm going to acknowledge a couple of people in here and just say hello. I see some more OGs in the house. I love it. I love it. I love it. I know, Chris, I'm just trying to be like you. I'm trying to like get fancy, a little bit fancy, just a little bit, but not too much. Always honored to share space. Yes. Nicolette, the Get Hired Strategist, I'm so glad you're here. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, folks. David Hunt, glad to see you here. Okay. It is like, you know what, being with other humans in the same room, I don't think that there's a replacement for that, because I don't think there's a replacement for hugs. I like hugs. But I do think that live streaming, as far as media goes, especially when it comes to video, it's one of the best and most fun and most warm and conversational ways to be able to connect with people. That's why I love it so much. So when we talk about structure, and I've given you the 3 parts, right? The idea is that you're creating a clear format for your show. So you want to put it into a format that you can easily remember, right? It helps to put things into buckets when it comes to your conversation or your message points, but it also allows you to stay organized, okay? And there may be different formats. I don't know if you noticed. Let me pull it up again real quick here on this one. So this is one of my favorite ways to actually design my run of show. This is an app called Workflowy. Workflowy. Workflowy allows you to actually create, you can use it in either this format, or you can have an outline, like a bulleted outline. There's a number of different ways you can go about doing it, but I'm going to break this down for you in a second. There will be differences. So I have one that's a solo version, but then I also have one that's a guest interview version. And then I have one where there's dual people. So there might be myself and one other person who are hosting someone else, right? So there's different formats that I've created for the run of show, and each of them is their own template. So all I've got to do is go in, slightly tweak the intro, fully tweak the content, because it's probably going to be different content depending on what I'm training or teaching about, and then maybe slightly tweak the close, because the close is going to have that call to action in it, and it may be different depending on what I'm talking about, okay? Now, for those of you who have followed me for any time, and no, David Hunt, that's a great question. Let me pop up your question so people know what you're asking. Workflowy is not an AppSumo app. I know I'm big on selling or sharing with you lifetime deals, because I do want to try to save you money, because I save myself money all the time. But no, this one is still fairly affordable. Last I checked, it's probably under $150 a year. But you may want to check on their website now. And I don't believe I have an affiliate link for that one. But Workflowy it's one of my favorites, and I'm going to see if I can actually pull the other formats up for you real quick too. Before I share my screen, I'm going to check it. Let's see if we've got, yeah. Okay. So I will pull up a couple of other formats for you in just a second so that you can see what I'm talking about or what I'm doing here. But I didn't want to confuse you. And I just confused myself. Doggone it. I'll fix it. Okay, there we go. I see where they've moved things now. Okay. But let me finish this thought. So when you're creating your structure, the main point of this is to help you to stay organized. The other main point, this is another benefit to doing a run of show, is that when you're doing a live stream that's a recurring stream that you're doing on a weekly basis, or you have some level of frequency, right? So maybe it's every other week, maybe it's 2 or 3 times a week, whatever you're doing, okay? Because your live stream strategy gets to be personalized to you and to your lifestyle. Personally, I can't get on live every day of the week. It just won't work with my schedule and with my life. But I can once a week. So when I'm doing that, however you're structuring your stream, part of your strategy should be that you want this to help people to get to know, like, and trust you. And if they're getting to know, like, and trust you, and you're creating this reliable consistency with them, One of the other ways that you're building trust and that you're promoting your branding is by creating a repetitive or recurring introduction and your outro. So what you'll see a lot of times, and this is similar with podcasts, audio podcasts, okay? So a lot of similarities between the two media. You're creating an intro that's going to get people like moving, like they know, they recognize. So when people see my show, they know and they recognize when I start talking about hashtag OG and hashtag newbie, they recognize that. Many of you are OGs, so you know, right? Yes. And the outro is typically going to be the same as well. I have a tagline that I use at the end of my stream. If you know what it is, type it in the comments. I'm curious to see if anybody knows what it is. And it's usually very subtle, but it's something that you're building into your program and into your talk because you're creating recognition. It's brand recognition. So that includes, of course, the visuals. And, you know, I use a lot of pinks and purples and such. But I also verbally am creating recognition. Now, part of this is because I am trained in neuro-linguistic programming from way back, master practitioner, I studied. But part of it is simply because I just know, like, people begin to know, like, and trust you, and they rely on you when you do repetitive things that they can say, oh, that soothes me. That reminds me of her last show. These are things they come to expect, okay? So when we're thinking about intro and outro, typically they're going to have elements that are similar to your other shows. I hope that helps. Let me pop in a couple of comments real quick here and acknowledge some folks. All right, Hicks, thank you. So Workflowy, yeah, it has a decent free plan. And the free plan actually is what I'm currently on. I used to have the paid plan, but I found that I could have just as much benefit from using the free plan. The $83 a year actually allows you to do more with it in terms of background and all of that. But let me show you what I'm talking about when I show you the back end of this. So remember I showed you what's called the board view or dashboard view. So I gave you this view at first. There's also couple of different views or ways. So when I first started, what I did is I actually used the outline view or the bullets view. And this bullets view has been my go-to for years. And there are certain things that I've done in here to code it, and I'll break this down for you in just a second, but I also want to show you a couple of other examples of how you can do this. More than anything, I don't want you to worry so much about the way I've structured and done it because you're going to personalize yours to you. But I do want you to get the understanding of how and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Okay, so we're going a little bit deeper. Deep. We're doing some strategy because that's what I teach. Okay. I love it. Okay, I see a couple of notes in here, so I will come back to that. In fact, I need to pop this up because Saeed, I think this is absolutely truth. I rarely do live streams, but often host events in Zoom with groups. The same principles apply to events like these. Absolutely. So we get to borrow from other scenarios, other types of speaking opportunities that we all have. Again, the same three buckets to make it easier for you to really organize your thoughts and to get your point across. That tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. And Chris Stone, thank you for confirming for me that it was Zig Ziglar. I thought it was. He's one of my favorites. Okay, so structure. And hopefully you understand the value of defining your show structure. So that's tip number one. Let me give you a couple other things under that tip number one. One of the best ways to put this together is to do it in advance. Now, I know sometimes I do last minute stuff. Like honestly, today I was late. Usually I'm supposed to promote on my schedule. I'm supposed to be promoting at least on Tuesday for my Thursday show, and I didn't do it until today. And y'all, it's just because life, that's all. Life was lifing. And that does happen, but I still took the time to plan and prepare in advance. I still went through and said, okay, if this is the topic I'm going to talk about, let me break this down and make sure that it's structured in such a way that people will understand it. So under defining your show structure, one of the tips is to plan ahead as best you can instead of being last minute. Now, the beauty of having a template is that you do get to plug and play, right? Because there's a couple of things that are just always going to be there. So let me show you another version of this whole thing so you can kind of see it. You can actually see my notes for tonight. I'll pull those up. This is in another tool. So let me show you this tool. This one is called Tascade. Now, Tascade has a whole lot of different pros to it. There's a lot of different reasons why I use Tascade, but I also love it for the idea of putting together my run of show and maintaining a listing of all of my weekly live streams in here. So this is where I am today. I've been using this probably more frequently. Now, the beauty of using Tascade as your run of show tool is that you get to create, of course, the outline view like you saw in Workflowy, but I also get to change this up. If I wanted to look at it in a board form, I can do that there. If I had dates to it, like if there were tasks, I could use this as a calendar, but that's not the purpose of this one. If I wanted to mind map it, I could actually use it in a mind map form, although that's not my favorite in here. There's all kinds of ways you can display it here, but this one's my favorite. If I'm using Tascade, I'm going to use it for this purpose. But you can see the notes that I've created for you in here, right? So this is what I'm working off of right at this moment. So notice I have my hook, and then I've got my intro with my reminder not to forget to put up the newbie and the OG banner, right? The transition. So I've mapped this out ahead of time so that I remember, and maybe not even remember, so that I know what I'm working with. I know how to make sure that I'm giving you something of value. And to me, that's important, that anytime I'm going to get on camera, anytime I'm going to be in the mic, that I have something that is going to be of value to the people who have come to share of their time, right? Because, you're giving me love and attention by just showing up and being here. So I want to give that back to you by making sure you have something that you can use. Okay, so Tascade is my second tool. And there's a third tool that I've started using now. This one is actually on AppSumo. And I can probably get you an affiliate link for it. But even if I don't, if you go to AppSumo, you'll find it. It's another tool called Board Mix. I'll show you that in a little bit, but let me get to the next point first. Okay, so defining your structure is really important. The second piece, let me say this, because I'm giving y'all all these structure words, right? And like I said, I know some of you are probably like, oh my God, she's saying structure like 5 times. And your eyes are glazing over and you're sweating and smoke is coming out of your ears. Leave room for flexibility and for improv. Because no matter how structured you see my notes, I'm always going to add a little bit of extra because this is stuff I know. So the benefit to you being a professional, being the expert in your field, having a niche that you're good at, that you're great at, is that you know your stuff. And the more you can talk about content that you yourself actually know and understand, the easier it will be for you to have a little bit more flexibility and to go with the improv when you need to add that little bit of extra and to pivot when you need to, which we're going to talk about as one of the tips. Okay, let's go into tip number 2. And if you do have questions, I want to hear or see them. So pop those in the chat and let me know. If there's questions, if there's comments, if there's anything that's standing out to you, if you find that there's like a gold nugget, I want you to give me a high five or something that tells me that you found the information that I shared to be great. You can put a fire emoji. That'll work. Let's see. Do we have a fire emoji? I think we got some fire in here too. If there's something that is working for you, pop the fire emoji up in there. There we go. Okay. So here's number 2. Let's see. Number 2. Plan engaging segments. Plan engaging segments. So what is she talking about? What do you mean by that? If you're planning engaging segments, that means you are doing things like what you see me modeling right now, which is you're using a mix of interactive and informative segments. Now, because I am an insightful instructor, again, that's one of the 4 archetypes that I teach. Because I'm an insightful instructor, I do probably a lot more instructing. And sometimes I can forget a little bit to like pull you in with me by doing fun little interactive things, but making sure that you mix up the type of segment. So you've seen me switch between scenes. You've seen me switch cameras like this, right? You've seen me doing different things in here because I'm disrupting attention. I'm making sure that I keep you like looking and waiting to see what's next. Is she going to do another explosion? Is she going to like have dollar signs? Like, what's she going to have next? Because I'm using a mix of informative and interactive pieces inside of my live stream puzzle. So in your segments, you're mixing things up. You might have a Q&A segment. You might have an informational segment. You might have things like I had the little short intro video. I've got some that I use in other episodes that I've done where I might have trivia or polls, but there's different visual aids. I know some people, like my friend Tatiana Rodriguez, who was on a show recently, she likes to use a pen where she's writing on the screen, which is so cool. I haven't really tried that yet, but I will. But do different things to help people to stay focused and attentive. So plan engagement into your run of show. And I'm going to show you now that third tool so you can see what I'm talking about. I'll give you an idea of what I mean when I do this, okay? So let me pull this one up. So this one is called Board Mix. Excuse me. Board Mix. And there we go. Okay. So Board Mix allows you to put all kinds of little handy boards together. This particular one is a mind map that I've done, which, by the way, I'm a huge fan of mind mapping. Love mind maps because they just help me get content out of my head and put it into some type of organized fashion using these little trees, okay? But here's what I've done in here, and I'm going to see, I'll blow up one of the segments. So as I was writing the show, I wrote it in 3 different ways so that you can see the same show that we're doing tonight, but you can see how I'm breaking it up. So there are different spaces where I have a yellow branch, and the yellow branch is an engaging question. And I'm supposed to ask you this question: do you have a favorite show structure or format? So of the 3 that I just shared with you, these 3 tools, are any of those your favorite? Do you prefer mind mapping? Do you prefer outlines with bullets? Do you prefer another style? So I'm asking you an engaging question that I've built into this presentation so that I can encourage you and invite you to put something in the chat. See how I did that? Sometimes it'll be just like natural. You're just naturally curious, which, by the way, I encourage you to do that when you're doing a live stream. Not only are you talking, but remember, this is a conversation. So I'm having a conversation with those of you who are here and even those of you who are watching the replay. And so I want to encourage you to engage and interact. And so I'm asking you the question. My question is, which of the formats that I showed you so far do you prefer? Did you like the workflowy dashboard version? Do you prefer the bulleted outline? Or do you prefer the mind map? Which of those 3? So pop your answer in the chat. Building in those questions ahead of time will help you to remember to not just be a talking head the whole time. It's also another reason why I've built into my scenes this comment section so that I can pull up your comments. So David likes the outline with bullets. Chris, I am not surprised. Total mind mapper. Yeah, I've been mind mapping since way back. I love mind mapping. It's just an easy way. Holy mind map, Batman. John Lacey, what's up? I love y'all. You're hilarious. Let's see. Valerie says she likes the outline. Yep. Saeed loves a pile of sticky notes, which, by the way, is also another option. And it's one of the ways that I first started. I didn't have all these different tools in mind, even though I have, done instruction for some time, even in my corporate role. Yellow sticky notes work just as well. And so if your preference is not to do electronic, that's absolutely another option. Erica likes the bulleted billboard, so she likes the dashboard. Yeah. Okay. So here's a good question that I can answer now. What are your opinion? What's the opinion on YouTube polls? I think it's good to build in any type of interaction, and YouTube polls or any type of polling system can be useful as long as it doesn't become a distraction, right? So, yep, bullets remind you of chocolates. And what I mean by that, as far as the distraction, is with any of these things, and this includes trivia, because I do have a trivia board that I use sometimes too. One of the things you want to be careful of is that whatever you're asking people, it's not something where they have to think too long, right? So if you're creating, for instance, questions that are like reading a paragraph and it's going to take people a whole day to answer and respond, that's probably not going to work as well. That's the reason why I love multiple choice. So I asked you which of the three, right? So that you could put that into the chat easily. And when I asked earlier, hey, give me a fire emoji, I'm giving very simple instructions that people can follow. So any type of polls, whether it's YouTube polls or Facebook Live polls or whatever you're using, if you're using trivia of some kind, make it simple enough so that people don't move away from the content that you're sharing and they still continue to engage. Keep it simple. That's my only thought on that, I guess. David, if that answered your question. Okay, so plan out engagement in your segments. Use visual aids, use props. I know people use whiteboards. Some people use, like I said, the pen where you're writing on your iPad and it shows up on screen. Some people use slides. I use slide decks sometimes, so I'll do something in Google Sheets. You see me doing a shared screen. There's any number of ways you can do that. One of the things I often get compliments on is my transitions, okay? So one of the things that I also encourage you to do is to use smooth transitions in between your different scenes. Now, this is super easy for me to do here in Ecamm because Ecamm gives you the ability to do all this kind of stuff, but OBS also allows you to do that. And there are other tools, Restream, StreamYard, etc., maybe not on the same level, but they still can work. It's just a matter of you figuring out, like, can I use multiple cameras here? You know, what else do I need in order to make this happen? So these are things you can think through and plan. And if you need help, that's what I do, right? Okay, let's talk about tip number 3. So tip number 3 is right here. Timing is everything, and timing is everything, y'all. So when I talk about timing, it would be really easy for me to do a show that lasts 2-3 hours. Why? Because I love teaching, I love coaching, I love training. And when I do, for instance, some of our Stream Bosses Academy stuff and events, usually those average 90 minutes to 2 hours. So I could easily end up just going way overboard. And especially when I have guests, right? Because if we're just in our conversation, like Chris Stone, he's somebody I could have talked to forever. He knows this. Hicks, same thing. Several of you who are here in the chat, I could have just been on with you all day. But instead, I have to kind of monitor and watch that because timing is important. What you want to do is give people a heads up and kind of let them know. Like a lot of live streams are typically 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Then there are people like myself who do more long form live streams because I have built up to this space and this place where I now have created community that comes back. So many of you are hashtag OGs. You've come back so that you can participate. And I love the engagement. So I want to give you that opportunity to ask your questions and get your questions answered and all of those things. So I know I need to run up to about an hour and then I need to be ready to jet. And so in order to do that, part of your planning when you're doing your run of show is putting minutes, as best you can estimate, putting minutes next to each of the sections, okay? So that you give yourself that timing. Now, one of the questions I'm going to pull up that Saeed asked earlier, let me pop it up, because I thought this was a really excellent question, and it's one that we need to talk about a little bit right here in this spot, not screen share. Go to comments. Right here. What do you keep in mind when planning your live streams to make them more likely to be repurposed? So this is something I have struggled with in the past, Saeed, but it is an important part of the whole timing issue, and one of the reasons why I brought it up. Yeah, switching scenes. One of the reasons why I brought that up with timing is because of this exact thing. So I continue to adjust, and you will too. As you're building out your live streams and you're doing more recurring, repetitive content, right? So you have this schedule, you're figuring out what works and what doesn't work. There are things that I have changed in my show flow, in my run of show, specifically because I know I want to repurpose. So I'll tell you one thing that I experimented with, Saeed. I experimented with this idea that at the end of every one of my shows, when I do the recap that is part of the close, that I will recap in such a way that I could use that as my 60-second short for YouTube. So that all I got to do when I go and repurpose the content that I've done with my live stream is pull that, yank that 60-second recap, and now that's giving people quick nuggets, and they can go back. It can point back to the full live stream if they want more of an explanation, but it's giving them teaser bites and telling them exactly what they wanted to know about the 5 tips. So I am doing better. I'm not perfect at it, but I do think it's important for you to think of what you want to do with this content after the fact. So your run of show should be helping you with that planning, right? So there's a couple of different things that I'm doing now. I won't get into all of that, but a couple of the different things that I'm doing and tweaking with my show in order to ensure that the repurposing of it for a podcast, for an audio podcast, for a 10-minute version, all of these things are going to be ready within 24 hours of me doing the live stream. So I am thinking ahead about how I plan out this show and how I write the outline and how I put the email for promoting together and all of those things as part of the strategy. So excellent question. And the answer is yes. You should be thinking about how you're going to use it because you're putting all this effort into creating this great content. So why not optimize it? Why not make the most of that, right? Okay. Thank you. Yeah. And you know what? Honestly, Chris Stone, I want to make sure that I do better with that. I haven't always been great at remembering to do it. That's real talk, but it's so important. And thank you, Gary Jones Jr. If you're benefiting from this session, press the like and share, y'all. Make sure you say hello and press the like, follow, and share. I appreciate that. You're welcome, Saeed. And again, you know I got to answer your question because you're up at 1 o'clock in the morning and can't sleep. So I feel you and I are kindred spirits because I run into that myself. Okay. So let's see what we got next. So timing is everything. Oh, this is one part of the timing thing before I go into number 4. Something that my own personal coach told me, because coaches need coaches. She said something to me that I hadn't even thought about. And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. She said, you're giving people URLs or links. Excuse me. I'm sorry, y'all. Allergies. You're giving people links at the beginning of your show and you're leading them off. Like you're telling them to go away from my video. And I was like, oh, yeah. Thus, you see the drop off in your metrics because people are going and doing what you asked them to do and not staying and fully watching the video, depending on how they're set up, like if they have one monitor, right, or whatever might be happening. So I now think about that too. Where am I going to insert links so that it does not penalize me in the show flow? Something to think about for timing. Okay, number 4. And this, to me, number 4, kind of touches on a little bit of what we've already touched on, but I still think it's important to pull out, and that's encouraging audience participation. So you want to ask questions. You want to encourage your audience to interact. You want them to ask questions as well, which is one of the reasons why I encourage you to put your questions in the chat and why I'm starring them. I'm putting a star next to them so I can favorite them so I can easily and quickly come back to them later. Because otherwise, I got to go through a whole list of comments and try to figure out where that comment was that I needed to answer the question for. So, encouraging people to not only interact with you, but you're asking them to ask questions. If there's something that's on their mind that is related to what you're talking about, you want them to be able to ask their questions just like you're asking engagement questions. And you want to leave room in your show to be able to answer those. So one of the things you could do, you could kind of insert or interject things as you go, like I've been doing tonight. Or you could, similar to sometimes when I do webinars, I'll ask people, let me get through the content first, and at the end, we'll have a Q&A. So it's up to you how you do that, but build in a space where people can ask you questions and they can participate in a different way other than just responding to you and to your engagement prompts. You can also offer incentives as a way to encourage engagement and reward people. So if you're doing those polls, if you're doing trivia, you might offer, which is something I do want to do, and I'll probably do it for my birthday month, which is coming up. I want to do trivia and then have people answer questions and then put them in to enter to win, a giveaway. And maybe it's merch from my shop, or maybe it's something from my Amazon store, right? But that is a great way if you're offering incentives to encourage participation. It's kind of like a little mini bribe, right? But in a good way. So it's a mutual exchange of goodness. Let's look at it that way. The other thing I want to encourage you to do as you build in your run of show is remember that whatever you're suggesting your content is about and the way that you're putting together your outline, use that to also build your social media content out. One of the benefits, and I'll show you my shared screen again, one of the benefits of me being able to break down, I did something weird, didn't I? Let me get this out of here. Hold on. I'm going to fix this real quick. One of the things that I actually did that has been super helpful, I'm going to fix that real fast right there, is to break this up, like we said, into bulleted points, okay? And so I'm going to show you the dashboard version just because it might be easier on your eyes as I'm talking through this. But I can go through here and then determine, okay, I know, right? You do a birthday month? Yes, I do. One of the things I use this for is if I'm creating my main points is to come up with captions for different social media posts, y'all. So for each of the bullets that goes under the main or key point, these now automatically can become social media captions that I use, right? I can recreate them or reinvent them and repurpose them into social media posts. So you never run out of content. Just imagine, look, I want y'all to follow me along with this, right? So you've created 10 live streams, and each of your 10 live streams has a run of show, and you've mapped it out and organized it and got it all nice and structured. And now you have an endless amount of social media posts. You can hire or outsource it to somebody, but say, hey, go through my outlines for my last 10 posts, and I want you to create social media captions from each of the points that lead up to the main message point. And at the bottom of the social media post, the image that you just created for me, or the vertical clip, or whatever it is you're having them create, the audio bite, I want you to put a link back to the full video or a link back to my website so they can get more of my content goodness. Y'all see what I'm saying? So you get to use what you've structured because you've taken the few minutes that it takes to put this together, and now it gets repurposed into content that you can use and just have moving. If it's evergreen content, meaning that it's always going to be relevant no matter that it's 3 years from now, it's still the same concept applies and is true. That is now endless social content. So when I tell you I love live streaming, trust me, I love it for so many different reasons. Now, let me go back to comments, and I'm going to pop this up. Super cool. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, John Incentive is a much nicer word. I will go with that. I will say incentive. Oh, tech troublemaker. I do my lives in segments or chunks and then interact with my friends and then do the next segment. Love it because that's probably a lot easier to repurpose. So going back to Saeed's question, absolutely. One of these days, I have done a summit. I organized one of my very first events as a coach was a summit. I love it. I love it. Okay. Yes, I do. Like I said, Chris, don't do a birthday month. September, because all of the girls in my household, we're all September babies. Okay, excellent question. How long does it take you to plan and prepare a single 60-minute stream? Okay, great question. So for me, because I'm used to doing this now, what I usually like to do, Saeed, is on Tuesday is when I like to do all this prep work. Like Monday, I'll decide on the topic. Tuesday, I'll start putting the prep together. Today, like I said, life was lifing. So it took me probably a good hour, but that's not long. Again, here's the reason why it only took me an hour, and it may take you longer or shorter, depending on you, your topic, your target audience, what you want to share, how you want to share it. For me, because I know my content, I've been in content marketing for 20 years now. I've been coaching for 20 years now. I haven't been doing video marketing as long, but a lot of the things, the essential foundations of branding and marketing and digital space, that all translates into, because of my knowledge, translates into what I do with video now. So it won't take me long. It'll take me about an hour once I know this is the topic I want to talk about. I've validated that it's something that people want to know. And now I'm going to structure it into some segments or sections that make sense and are easy for me to share. So for me, about an hour. But again, it will differ for each of us. So it's a good point, a good question you brought up, because you'll want to kind of estimate how much time will that take so that as you are going through your week and you're planning, you know, oh, I need to block off this amount of time in order to prepare for my stream. So I love that question. Okay, I'm going to go into the fifth and final point. So then we'll do a recap. Okay, fifth and final point. Is this: be prepared for anything. So as much as you're putting together this structured outline, y'all, things can go wrong. They just can. Or you might be inspired to say something different. You might be inspired by a question or a story that someone's put into your chat or a memory that comes up because of the discussion that you're having and the dialogue about the topic that you love so much. And this especially can happen with guests. So when I'm doing guest interviews, as much as I might have certain questions planned, what I try to give them an alert about is we might go off topic, because depending on what you share, I'm going to be curious enough to ask you follow-ups. And I'm also going to take the vibe from the audience. If they're asking specific questions, if there's things, a path that they want to go down that I feel like we can go down this path and still maintain that hour-long limit, then I will do that. So you need to be prepared to be effectively adaptable. You need to know that there are going to be times when you need to adapt. So be prepared for anything and everything to happen. I love that you can put together the structure and the outline and have the bullets and all the things that I showed you, but you still need to know that you should be flexible and ready. Here's another reason why you need to do that, because sometimes if you're broadcasting live, and let's say you're live on YouTube, or you're live anywhere where there's a public space that anybody can access and happen to engage, sometimes you're going to have people that don't come in with good intentions. I've had that. Some of you have actually helped me to move them out of the way, right? When that happens, you don't want that to throw you off your mark. And that's one of the reasons why I really do think it's beneficial to have some form of an outline so that you, when you get thrown off a little bit, you can go back to your outline and say, okay, where was I? I was here. When you don't have that roadmap, it's a little bit harder to do that. So, all right. I'm going to go ahead and pop up a couple of comments. I'm going to make sure I answered questions. If you have a question that you need me to answer in the next few minutes, I want you to pop that up so I can see it. Look, if anything that you've heard tonight has been beneficial to you, I want you to put a mind blown emoji. If something was like a total surprise and you didn't know that before you came tonight, put the mind blown emoji in there for me. Let me see it. Look, mind blown. Boom. So if there's something that like is new, if there's a nugget, and if there's one sentence you want to put in that describes what that message was or what that learning point was, you can put that in the chat as well. Here's what I'm going to do. Let me pop up a few comments real fast, and then I'm going to recap, and then we'll get ready to close. I also want to just remind you that you don't have to do things the way that I've done them, but I hope I've given you some ideas that you can use and that you can walk away with. Saeed said, not everyone on the internet is nice and decent person. I know. Is that your mind blown? Because the answer is no. Not everyone is. I love it. Mind blown. Chris Stone gave me mind blown too. You are awesome, sir. Of course you are awesome, Chris Stone. Let me see. It can be super fun having your notes on the Elgato prompter so you don't even need to look away. Yep, some people love teleprompters. That's another tool that you can absolutely use to help you to stay on track with your run of show. If you've got your run of show in notes, I'll pull up a couple more in a second. I don't personally love teleprompters. I've tried several. I have some sitting over there on the floor. I don't use them, but that's me. I do use them for a specific purpose, and that is if I'm doing a sales video or something like that, a little promo, I want to make sure I'm saying things exactly such a way. Now, I have clients that swear by them and use them through their live streams because they really help them to stay on track. Another really quick tool I didn't share, but I'll say this for those of you who are Ecamm Live users, and if you're using Be Live, Restream kind of, sort of, you can do this. But there's other streaming platforms that allow you to put notes, to put an agenda together. That's your run of show. That's your structure, right? Ecamm, the way I do it here on Ecamm, is I simply order my scenes a certain way so that I know, okay, I need this scene, I need this scene, I need this scene, right? Or you can do it on your Stream Deck and have your buttons programmed a certain way so that you have those in order. So all of that is part of you thinking ahead in terms of your run of show. So before every live, that is one of the things that I do is I go in and I make sure my scenes are set up the way that I want them to be so that they'll be organized along with my notes. I know I'm saying a lot and I don't want smoke coming out of your ears, so I'm getting ready to close this up. Let's see what we got in here. Yes. Okay. Nicolette says smart. Love it. Dan, the Fab Five subcontract, you're funny. Okay, I'm looking to see if I see any questions. Yeah, John, this is a really good way to help people. Hey, that's a bit outside of the scope of today's topic. Let's explore it. Yep. Session Lab is one of my favorites. And Saeed, I actually have a lifetime deal with them, so I'm a big old fan. I use Session Lab to create my workshop flows. I have used it for run of show. There are certain reasons why I won't use it nowadays for run of show, but I absolutely use it to organize my workflows, not workflows, but my workshops, my webinars, things like that, keynotes, even courses. Session Lab is amazing for that. Let's see. I know, with the alternate camera, you're so funny. You got all of that. I'm trying to be more like you people, you real videographer and video marketing strategist and specialist. I'm trying to be more like you. Be prepared. Yes, that is absolutely one of the messages. Okay, let's do our quick recap then. And if you have a question that I miss and you're watching the replay, just type in hashtag replay. I'll come back and I'll acknowledge you and make sure that I answer your question if I can, or point you to a resource if I can't. The run of show, 5 pro tips. Here's where, let's go with this. The first thing I want you to make sure that you remember when it comes to your run of show is that your run of show is your go-to for being able to organize your thoughts and how you want to show up with a recurring brand that people will remember and rely on. So when you're doing a regular weekly live stream show like I am, they know and you know, here's the program, this is how it works. And they become to rely on you for that. And it builds trust. It's a psychological thing, but it helps to build trust. There are 5 tips that we went over tonight. One is that you need to define your show structure and make sure that your show is structured in such a way that you're telling them what you're going to tell them, you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them, like Zig Ziglar says. You want to plan engaging segments, so make sure that it's not just you as a talking head with live streams. You want to engage and pull people into the conversation by planting in your run of show different questions or interactive points. Timing is everything, so keep in mind the time limit that you're giving yourself and make sure that it is going to be, that what you're talking about is going to fit into that timing, right? So give yourself enough space. If you're finding that you're way over time, then you're going to need to remove and reduce the content that you plan to share, which is okay. It's fine. Encourage audience participation. So not just talking at people and sharing questions with them, but also offering to answer questions in real time. That absolutely helps you with audience participation and engagement and helps people to want to stay on, especially if you offer them incentives. Like if you do a trivia or a poll and you enter them to win in a contest or a giveaway. And then finally, be prepared for anything, because anything can happen, y'all. Anything can happen. All right. I'm going to double check. There was one question. Dan, I'm going to come to you separately from this on the sessions thing and definitely talk a little bit about that. How about that? Okay. I appreciate your time. I hope that you were able to take away some good nuggets. Here we are at the top of the hour. So as I promised you, I want to try to respect your time and keep within the structure that we've built. But I hope you've been able to get some ideas that you can use for your own business and for your own content. And if you're creating live streams and you're feeling like you're lonely and on your own and you need a little help, just give me a buzz, DM me. Let's set up a call, a discovery call. We call it Discover Video Visibility, and we can talk about what we've got going on. Carlos Tacos, you are not late. You're always on time. The replay will be available to you here shortly. All right, everybody. I hope you have an amazing evening. Thank you for listening, for watching, and for hanging out with me in the chat. I will see you next week in the stream. And next week, I do have a topic in mind, but I might change it, so I won't share what next week's topic will be. But just know that, as always, it's going to help you to be able to leverage live stream marketing so you can stand out online, sell more of your services, and serve more people. Okay? All right. Take care, and we will see you next week. Have a great one.